we've got our carcass. Everything's pretty much good to go. We've got pocket hole screws along here so that we can mount the top. I'm going to go ahead and put the top on, and then I can start building the drawers and the different shelving components that I want to use. Now we just got to kind of gently work our top on. I've already cut it to the length I need, which is 77 inches by 43 inches. So it's just kind of sliding it on and then getting it set. Well, I went ahead and I've got the top all mounted. I used some wedges underneath to make sure that everything was as flat as I could get it. And I think we're all set. I set the surface of this about a 32nd below the table saw surface so that the material would drop off smoothly. I've got the planer sitting on the end here to kind of help flatten that edge out. So one of the things I want to do here, just to, because I'm just almost parallel here, I want to put a slight taper right here so that materials don't get hit, because this end dead perfect across here, but it's close. And I'm going to use my cobalt block plane. Been getting a lot of comments on this on my cobalt video, but you can see it works. It takes shavings, and I'm just taking a thin one here. I can increase it a little bit more. There we go. So we're getting what we need. The nice thing is this is laminate and particle board, so I don't really care if I hurt this plane. It's only $15. This thing comes in handy for this kind of material though. And there we go. Now I got a little bit of a chamfer right there that'll help stop that from catching on wood. Well, I went ahead and cut down some pieces. These are 12 inches tall, and the front's going to be 21 inches wide. That's what I need for the space where I'm going to be putting this. It's going to be a drawer. Basically, a drawer is just a box, you know. And then I've got some half-inch plywood that was given to me. It's got a nice. I'm going to probably put that on the inside where you can see it. I'll just set these literally on there and screw that to it, and that'll be the bottom. That way if it gets torn up or anything, it's easy to replace. With shop furniture, I don't really glue it all together because sometimes things happen and you tear things up. So I'll probably pocket hole screw this in, and then I'll use this little handhold deal here and make me a handle. Now I'm ready to do the pocket hole screws. So I got my pocket hole jig mounted in my newfangled workbench. I'm not going to put a pocket hole screw in the dead center because I want to have a 3/4 inch groove through there to ride on that rail that I'm going to be making. You'll see that as we go. And we're just going to make some pocket hole screws. And we're just going to repeat that process all the way around. Well, I've got a 3/4 inch bit in my router here. I've got it on my auxiliary table off my table saw, and I'm using my table saw fence. I don't use this configuration too often, but it's nice to know I have it when I want to use it, because my Incra system, I haven't finished setting it up yet. And then my Craig system, that's a little bit 6 inches centered on 12 inch material, is right at it's just past its max capacity. So it's good to have one of these sitting here, and this fence has got plenty of capacity. So I want to take a little bite at a time, not try and do the whole 3/8 at once. I'm going to do one on each side, and then that'll give me the dado I need to ride on my drawer runner. And that gives you the groove you need, and I'll just repeat that until I get to the depth that I want. Alright, so all I'm doing is putting the bottom straight away on here. So I'm just going to screw it up from the bottom. The easiest way to measure it is to set the box itself on there, square it up on one corner, and then draw a line and then cut that out. Well, I'm going to be making some runners out of this board here, and what I did before I cut it down into strips is I went ahead and made the board all uniform by rounding over the top. I just used a block plane and just kind of went over the end grain a little bit and just rounded it, and then I sanded it. And I just went ahead and did both ends. That way, once I get this in the strips, because the rounded over edge helps you fit it onto the drawer and make it run really well. And then one of the other things you want to do is go ahead and sand this all the way as slick as you want. I went up to 320. This thing is nice and smooth. And then once you wax your runners in the drawer, this thing will slide really well. Now, my groove is 3/8 of an inch deep, but I don't want to make my runners that thick. I want to make them 5/16. That way there's just a little bit of wiggle in there, because you know you got expansion and contraction on wood and things like that. And then I don't want it to be the full 3/4 of an inch thick. I just barely shaved it down on the planer to accommodate that. A little bit of play will let it slide in and out of there really nice. And then I've got my front as a stop. So that's how this is going to work. So let me show you how to cut these strips. How I'm going to do these strips is I'm going to use this rockler jig that has a little bearing on it and a little scale, which the scale just helps. But what you're going to do is you're going to set it from the farthest tooth here to the end of that roller, and I've got it set to 5/16. And then you're going to take your piece of wood, set it against that roller, bring your fence over till it touches. And then now I know that this, once I rip it, it'll be 5/16. And then once that one's done and I've got the next piece, I just move it over, touch the roller, repeat the process, and I can get a bunch of 5/16 strips out of this for my runners. This is how I'm going to do this. I got just some fill blocks here that are 6 3/8. This will help hold up the runner so I can tack it in. We're just going to set it on there. I'm going to use a little spacer block to represent the front of my drawer. Just kind of barely set it behind it and leave it like that, and then just tack it in. And that is the runner. Just like that. And then put a few more in just for good measure. And then I'm just going to repeat that on the other side. Alright, let's you and me find out together if this is going to work. Oh, let's see if we can get it finagled in there. I got the bottom a nice snug fit, but it'll wear over time. Oh, look at that. Then we'll have a handle right here. Just pull that out. And you can extend these out pretty far. I mean, that's most of the way where you could reach in and get most things. So, and I haven't even waxed it yet, and it's sliding really nice. And then over time they get better, because I did the same thing with my newfangled workbench, and a lot of them just fly right out. So let's see how far we can actually extend it. Well, that's pretty far. It's not a full extension, but it sure does pull out pretty far. Now another method you can use, along with, you could do the router like I did previously, or if you've got a lot of them to do, which I do now, it's much faster to set up a dado stack and run it through that way. So here we go. Leaves it with a nice clean dado. One of the next steps you're going to want to do is you're going to want to cut out for your hand to go into. Some kind of handle, you could just bolt a handle on. I like cutting these out and then I round them off. I've got them on my newfangled workbench the same way, and it's just a simple template. It's an 1 3/8 round Forstner bit on each end and then about 4 inches apart. And I drill each end, connect the two, and then I take a router and follow this template, and that gives me the perfect handle every time. Once you get your holes drilled, just to help clear out the way, you can saw out that little bit if you want. I'm just going to use the router bit to cut it away. And I've just got a pattern bit in here to ride along my template and give me the perfect duplicate of this hole. Alright, and then once you get that all routed, remove your template, and you've got a perfect little spot. That little bit of tear out won't matter, it's on the inside, and I'm rounding this edge over anyway. But as you can see, we got a nice place, and my hand fits in there real nice. And once you round these over, it gets really comfortable, and I just use a 1/4 inch round over bit to round those over. Well, that's going to end it for part 2. I've got my bank of drawers all finished. As you can see, I've painted them black. Really like how that looks in this darker cabinet. The drawers really work well. You know, everything's all waxed. So please hit that like button. Subscribe to my channel if you would. I appreciate you watching. If you need to email me, it's backyardwoodshop@gmail.com. And until next time, I'll see you in the backyard.